just like you said, like for me, that is part of what makes me feminine is the fact that I am curvy and I'm soft in places, but I'm very strong and I'm solid as well. And that transcends from the physical piece to the emotional to, the mental to everything. That's who I am, graceful and I am strong. And there's space for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that.
Welcome back. We are on today with my guest, Lane Wonder on I'm Too Old for This Shit podcast. I'm Angie S., the founder of angies.com, link in the show notes, where I coach and consult women on their health and skincare while keeping it fun, irreverent, and most of all practical and realistic for their own lifestyles. I started this podcast because I wanted to talk about well-being beyond food, skincare, and meditation. Even though those are still really important and definitely important to me, I want to have guests on to talk about well-being beyond those things because things like sex, dating, and other areas of health, relationships, and feeling like a misfit are also part of well-being and a different way of empowering other women, but also men. If you're enjoying this show, please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, follow on Spotify, share the word, share the love. That's how you're going to help, support this show. So today we have Lane on to talk about body confidence, marching to your own drum, femininity, and all this good stuff. So the way we met, and by meeting, I mean, I basically stalked her on Instagram, sent her a DM, and she was like, yes, I'm up for it. And what do you know? A few days later, we're doing this interview. So this was all very spur of the moment, very exciting. And so I'm really, really happy to introduce Lane Wonder to you. So without further ado.
Hi, Lane. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, thank you. I'm really, really excited to have you on today. So I saw you on Instagram via the Vertical Joe's account, and I've just been a little bit obsessed, and I've just really wanted to talk to you because you're the type of person I wish I had around when I was, my teenage years and in my 20s for a few different reasons. So before we get into the interview, can you please introduce yourself, what you do and where you live?
Yes. So I am Lane. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, which is an awesome person. I do lots of different things. Part of my passion as it relates to my brand Curve Lane is holistic wellness. And so what I mean by that is mind, body, soul, kind of the whole shebang, learning skills to stay grounded and what it means to be truly well and not just kind of getting caught up in the rigmarole or caught up in one channel. So be that, I need to lose X number of pounds by whatever. No, like, how do you feel about it? Let's just do a check-in. And so that's kind of my whole spiel. So I do lots of different things. And really it's where that intersection with mental health and wellness and purpose and movement all intersect. And that's me in one nugget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. It's, yeah, because you have a little both sides to you. You have both the traditional side, I would call traditional, and the more sort of like risque, avant-garde, which is super inspiring. So I definitely want to get into that. And I think it's definitely got to do with, like part of like your brand is obviously helping others, marching to their own drum and stepping into their own lane and finding themselves really. So, and it starts in your, I don't know if it starts there, but I've noticed in your email signature, you have this message which says she silently stepped out of the race that she never wanted to be in, found her own lane and proceeded to win. Now, I found that's really profound. Like, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, so it means exactly that. I kind of came across that quote probably on Pinterest because that is my guilty pleasure. I could lose hours of my life to Pinterest. But I came across that just in trying to center myself and ground myself. And I think for so long, especially in my early 20s, I spent so much time trying to compare myself to others or like meet this unrealistic timeline that I created anxiety for myself, like crazy anxiety for myself. And so when I moved away from that and started to kind of tap into like what's inside of Lane, where does my power source come from? Then I just started to do my own shit, and I really wasn't worried about anything else. And I think because I try to reflect a lot on things, just kind of, again, stay grounded in you're doing all right, you're moving, you're progressing, however life has it mapped out for you. When I started to reflect on those pieces with running my own race, I saw things started to shift in a different manner in comparison to when I was trying to run somebody else's race.
Is that how you found the pole, like pole dancing?
So I found pole. I graduated undergrad in 2008, moved to Memphis, couldn't find dance classes that I liked. So part of my background, I'm traditionally trained in lots of classical styles. So modern and contemporary, tap, jazz, I was that kid. And so when I moved, I was still looking for some of those things, looking for hip hop classes and things like that. Couldn't find anything, mainly because I wasn't looking in the right place. Memphis is full of cultural type things, but I wasn't looking in the right place. But I kind of happened upon pole, and I've always been crazy strong, and I've always had this very athletic, curvy frame. And so for those, it kind of encompassed lots of things that I love, which was graceful movement, having fun, musicality, and strength. And I just fell in love with it. And so I just kind of kept it up. And I think through that, I found new confidence in myself, but then was also able to promote that just through who I am as an individual, but also people who come in who look like me or maybe are in a similar place in life as I was, to kind of help progress them through that. I find in life in general, I think it's really easy to be, to stop yourself from doing things because of fear. And that can be dance, that can be life, that can be relationship, that can be whatever. And you start taking fear out of things and you just go for it, like you find that crazy, awesome things start to happen when you just stop being scared. And so although pole is fun, it's sexy and things like that, like it's so much more than movement. At least the way I teach it, it is.
Yeah. So for those of you who, because this is audio. So for those of you who haven't seen you yet, they will check you out after this interview. But so they may not understand what you mean by when they say for someone who looks like me, because you said, for someone who looks like me. But yeah. What do you mean by that?
So I mean curvy, not your traditional dancer type as society would have it, right?
Yes.
So when you look about someone who is tall and statuesque and has these long limbs and is thinner, I'm the complete opposite of that. I am 5'5", and I am as curvy and as muscular as they come. And so you have women who come in all types of, sizes and shapes, different ages, different backgrounds, just different things coming in, and they doubt themselves from jump because there's this figment of, well, I'm not her, or I can't do this because I am XYZ, which is 100% not true, And so when they come, in my class, they're like, oh, well, you're doing it, so I can do it. I'm like, yeah, you damn right you can do it. Let's go, Yeah.
No, I love this. And it's definitely, I've seen you do your dancing, on Instagram, and you're definitely strong. Like you do a handstand, and by society's norm, if you can, I should be able to. And I can tell you right now, I can't, I definitely can. And so, this is interesting because with the body confidence and the size, just to be very clear, I think equating size to beauty and acceptance is, in my opinion, like a big mistake. If anyone was going to focus on something around size, it'd be more like health, for example. If someone's sort of emaciated, doesn't eat, or someone who, eats and can't get out of bed,
right.
There are health issues there, right? So, but I always found many different types of bodies beautiful and attractive. And that's, I found like a rounded woman beautiful. And I also found Ruby Rose. I don't know if you know who she is. She's super skinny, but I think she's a stunner. I think there's beauty in all sizes. But I wish I had people like you around me when I was trying to fit into a mold of not having a bum, thigh gaps. I have bum, I have thighs, I have hips. And, I used to always try to fit in and try to lose weight. And I can't believe I use so much energy on feeling, physically inadequate when, in effect, I had just a bit more to love, And of course, for me to get to that size when I was younger, it's because I was like, binge eating. But once I got past that, I found I had a real struggle to lose the weight. But I think that if I had learned to accept and, and stop going on to crazy diets and stuff, but I had to learn to accept, I think I would have given myself a lot more chances of doing better because it was clouding me so much. And somehow, even though today we have examples around us of that you have examples around us where it's entering the mainstream now that beauty and size are not the same. We're not, beauty is beauty regardless of size, whether you're small or bigger. And somehow I still find young women complaining about weight that they need to lose, where they say they need to lose, where they have nothing to lose. So it's still there somewhere. So how did you fight that? Because not only did you fight that, but you're transcending it with dancing and pole dancing, where, you are wearing revealing clothes. And I mean, I personally find you absolutely beautiful. I don't want to make you uncomfortable either. I don't want to go.
No, you were okay.
But, it's like, how did you fight that? Because I still sometimes fight it. I still find it sometimes difficult. And I don't actually have anything I need to lose, but sometimes I still find it difficult. So how did you fight it and how do you fight it?
So for me, it's been literally a lifelong thing, right? I was a fetus and was dancing. So I just came out as a mover and have wonderful parents. Like, I can't say that enough. And so, being in class as a little curvy 8-year-old, 10-year-old with children who were smaller than I was, definitely struggled with that. But my parents did a great job in helping me stay grounded. As I started to get older, like most teens, and, you start to compare yourself a little bit more, you're exposed to some more things. And so that was definitely a challenge. But I think what helped me the most was changing my mindset. And so I started to shift away from, oh, I can't fit into this, or I don't look like this person, or whatever these different barriers, to looking at the cool things that my body could do. You know what I mean? And being grounded in, like, what are the positives? Like, oh, I lifted this really heavy thing today. That was really awesome. I felt really badass doing this. Or I can't believe that I was able to do, this particular dance move, or whatever the case may be. And especially for me, it almost became like shtick, right? And so part of my undergrad degree, so for undergrad, I went to school for psychology and dance. I never forget when I went in to do the audition for that and many more. Because I am curvier in size and have always been bigger than the other people around me, there's this kind of like unspoken, like, oh, well, bless her heart. You know what I mean? Like, coming in, and I would feed off of that. And so it bred this kind of like competitive nature. Like, I know what you're thinking, but I can show you better than I can tell you. And I just embodied that, and I always have. And so I would always have people to come up to me, like, after the fact, like, I'm so sorry. I just assumed that you wouldn't be able to do X, Y, Z, or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's why I can show you better than I can tell you. And so that it has just been that I've had to reinforce over the years for myself. And with pole, what's been cool is it's like any sport, I think, for me. It's very athletic. You talk to any athlete, particularly within the pole community, and when we get a new move or, a new trick, especially if you've been working on something for a really long time, like, it is very exciting. It's very exciting to find this new strength that you didn't know was there. And like I said, I feel like with movement, it kind of transcends and can kind of bleed into different areas in your life. It's like when you start to tap into something that you didn't think that you could do because of whatever barriers that you've held against yourself, and then you start to apply that mindset to other things, the sky is the limit with that. And so that is how I've kind of, I don't even want to say like fight, but that's how I've evolved the way that I have thought about those things,
Yeah.
And of course, being healthy and making sure that I'm okay in whatever the case, and staying grounded in some things are genetic, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
am built to
absolutely.
be, I'm built to be curvy. I will always be curvy, but I can also make myself stronger. I can eat healthy because I want to live a long life, not because I want to fit into a certain size jean, you know?
Yes.
And so it is that type of mental shift of, let me think about like what my end goal is. Let me think about the why behind. And my why or my goal is never, I want to look this way, or I want to be this size, or I want to weigh this, whatever the case may be. My piece is always, you know, is my heart healthy? Do I feel good about, you know, myself and the awesome things that my body can do? And so that helps me to stay positive and then also exude that positivity and support other people in kind of shifting that mindset.
Yeah. No, I love this. And it's definitely, it sounds like it sounds like a lot of it was where you chose to put your focus on. You didn't choose to put your focus on the size jeans you should fit in or what society is telling you should do. You just went, well, wait a minute, how do I feel? And also this is this new move I can do now and on the pole. And, you know, you looked at your strength. You didn't focus on what was perceived as a lack or whatever it was, you know. And I think areas of focus are so important because that's how you're going to move forward in life. You know, are you going to wallow in something that you can't change or that it doesn't even matter, or you're going to actually focus in on what you can actually use for you and what's going to help you live a better life for yourself, you know. And inadvertently, by doing that, you also become better for others. You become an inspiration, you know, by actually stepping into your own lane, you know, to quote yourself, you know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think, I mean, I have actually tried pole dancing when I was in Australia. I was in Australia for about a year, many years ago, and I did like a 6-week course or something. I can't remember. It was a few weeks. It's hard. Oh my God. It is so hard. And there's all kinds of moves and doing an elbow lock. I was like, what now? I mean, I could never lift myself up, but that's my own weight. I was just like, I can't. But it was so much fun. And it's definitely, I think I can understand why you're using dance in what you do, because because I've always loved dancing too, and I don't do it anywhere near enough. But I found that moving my body and learning something new, a new skill within that, is always so gratifying, and it sort of boosts. It releases those, you know, those feel good hormones, and it makes you stronger, and it makes you stop worrying about shit that doesn't matter.
Right.
Mm.
You are absolutely right.
I think I may have mentioned this in the intro, but like what I found, which is really interesting also with you, is, you know, you have those two sides that you seem very comfortable showing. So you have the one side, you know, the more like the sensual goddess who can dance and, you know, can be erotic or expressive or both at the same time. And when I look up on your website, you obviously have the dancing on there too, but you also show this more maternal girl next door type. And by that, I mean, like, it's sort of that you can feel that you have like a strong desire to help others to find their own, you know, lane, find their own inner confidence. And yes, the dancing is on there because that's one of the tools you use. But my question is, how did you get the courage to marry both sides? Because those two sides can sometimes seem contradicting by society's norm, you know, especially when you're dancing erotically or doing these things and then going, you know, you've got to, you know, about empowerment. Those two used to be very conflicting ideas. And I'm not sure how long you've been doing it for, but how did you get to that? How did you marry those two things and be confident in that?
Yeah, so Curved Lane, which is my brand, is kind of who I am and has been my life's work before it even had a name. So professionally, I've been in the mental health field for 12 plus years and love helping people. And I think what I've seen professionally, in my family and friend circles and things like that, is you would have symptoms of things that were stemming from different things, right? So an example of that might be you're depressed maybe, and the symptoms of that is like crazy overeating, or maybe another type of maladaptive type thing because you don't have the skills to be able to cope maybe in a healthier way, to be able to deal with some of those things that are really going on, be they a feeling or be they a legit chemical imbalance. And so for me, dance is a modality to help channel some of those pieces as a tool, but I also love speaking and I love writing and things like that. And so for me, marrying both of those pieces together kind of came organically, because although I'm a dance teacher and instructor and educator, I am so much more than that. You know what I mean? Like I do consider myself to be like a healer of sorts. And the way that I go about doing that is using movement and using my words and using guidance and using coaching and all of those pieces. And so the brainstorming really came with, all right, Jen, these are the gifts that you've been given. How do you put this in a package to where you give it away? It was either an old friend or maybe my mom who would always say something, to the effect of, when you're given a gift, you have a gift, you have to give it away. And that's what you do with gifts. And that has always stayed with me. And so Curved Lane is really just the label and the term of who I am as an individual and the gifts that I have to be able to give it away in a way that it makes sense. But you are absolutely right. I think sometimes society would like to look to see that those things are kind of, they contradict one another. But in my world, they don't. They're all different tools to kind of help with that. And pole is one facet of the type of movement that I do, And so if you do visit my website, which is just curvedlane.com, you'll see fusion on there. You'll see Afrobeats. You'll see floor. You'll see contemporary. You'll see all of these different things. And they're all different kind of channels for different things, whatever you would need. And so that's just my way to kind of comb through those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think also, with society's norm and the way they, some people would say it's conflicting. Well, how can you show pole dancing and teach empowerment? I think a lot of that as well has to do with the eye of the beholder. It's reflecting more on the person expressing that view than anything else that you're actually doing. So, for example, like this may sound odd, but I was dating this guy, and I think it was on the second date. We went to a burlesque night, and I don't think he really knew what burlesque night was. He was the one who he set it all up. It was his. He made it the whole thing, the booking and stuff. And I was just really excited to go. I'd only been once before, and it was a bit more revealing than what he'd expected. He didn't expect that, and and I was really enjoying it because I'm mostly straight. I really appreciate women, but I'm mostly straight. But I really love watching women dance. And he turned around almost to want to apologize. And I went, shoot, you are killing my buzz. And he realized there was nothing, because for me, there was nothing wrong with whatever was going on. And I thought it was so much fun and we had such a great time. And I think it's very much to do with how the internal life, how they are seeing what's going on. And so, someone would have gone, oh, this is debauchery, depending on, I guess maybe how they're being brought up or, their beliefs and stuff. And I think this is why it's so important. And it circles back to what you do, I think, is that it doesn't matter what people think, because you can change that. And everything is fleeting. That person, we're all fleeting, we're all going to pass one day. And so if we are holding back and keeping ourselves small because of what someone may or may not think about us, we are wasting our time and we are wasting a gift that should be, like you said, given away,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I want to ask you, do you help both men and women, or sort of any gender?
Yeah, anybody breathing. Like, come on through,
Yeah.
Absolutely no discrimination with what that looks like. Movement is for everybody. Healing is for everybody. feeling good about yourself is for everybody. And that's something that I'm really passionate about.
And so have you noticed a difference as to why men come to you versus women?
How do you mean?
Like what their needs are and what their issues are, maybe.
Ask me one more time, Angie.
So I was asking you that question because I'm curious to hear if, if you've noticed any sort of major differences between when you are helping a man, when you're trying to empower a man versus empowering a woman. Have you noticed that maybe there are sort of nuances as to why one will come to you versus the other? Like, maybe they have issues with different, with specific things that maybe we don't, and vice versa. Have you noticed that?
I have not. The people who do come to me for support or movement or whatever the case may be are predominantly female and gay men is usually, who and not to blend the two different, very beautiful groups, and lots of different nuances even within those groups. But anytime I do have straight males to approach that it is in an appropriate way, it's usually not involving the movement component or anything like that at all. It's usually like, hey, I've got this going on. What feedback might you have for me? And so I don't really see too many different nuances in terms of students or, patrons or whomever who would want like a class or a workshop, or especially with the pole and things like that. I usually have a good majority of female people to reach out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. No, that's, I was just curious to hear. And so this may sound like an odd question, but because with your brand, and obviously it's called Curved Lane, do you feel any pressure with your current brand, Curved Lane, to stay a certain size? Is that an issue for you?
Not necessarily. I think for most people, men, women, everything in between, as you start to get older, your metabolism slows down, and different things just start to happen just because that's how bodies work. And so I don't feel a pressure in terms of size or anything like that. I always want to be a size sexy or size healthy is kind of where I try to stay.
Yeah.
And also fully recognize genetically just how my makeup is,
Yes.
So I will always be a curvy gal. That's just how I'm built. I'm also built very muscularly. And so, maintaining the healthy balance between the two is kind of where I am, but it's really not set to any particular size. And with the name, so one of the things that I spent a lot of time in just thinking about, like, who am I and how do I capture everything that I'm offering just in a name, and then kind of go from there. So obviously my name is Lane, and I am curvy. But the name also embodies kind of the feeling of like, even if you don't know what's coming around the bend, just keep going. Keep going, because if you're driving, I lived in the mountains for a couple of years. I lived in Asheville.
No way.
North Carolina. And so it's beautiful up there. And there's lots of curves and bends and things like that because you're in the mountains. And so you may not know what is going in the next, or what may happen upon you in the next 5 miles or so. But once you go around that curve, it is beautiful and it is breathtaking. Or it might be a little scary, but you continue to go and you continue to ride. And so it's kind of those layers in my brand name. And so where, yes, there's the curve piece in there and there's my name piece in there, layered with that is also the notion of like, be grounded in your purpose, be grounded in your wellness, use movement as a mechanism if you so choose, and keep going.
I love that. Yeah. Especially like not being able to see, like 5 miles ahead, because that's, we have a direction, we know where we're going, but we don't always know what it's going to look like. And so how do you, how would you say to someone, how do you know if you are following what's true to you. You like true to yourself, to your path, because that can still feel uncomfortable. So how do you know that's what you're doing versus just going with what you think you should be doing? Like, how does someone recognize they're in their true lane?
Sure. So I can speak to my experiences, pretty specifically, and then, feedback that I give to other folks. So I think as I started to get older, maybe right out of college, I went through all that of like, oh, I need to be doing this and I should have accomplished this by this age or whatever, just all the different bullshit that we all kind of do to ourselves and create just crazy anxiety for ourselves. And I moved away from those things that I loved because movement is a way that I communicate. Like when I found myself in places where I couldn't describe what was going on with words, or I couldn't communicate the feelings that were happening, and I just needed to kind of release in a healthy way. Movement was that for me. I didn't speak, I would move. And so in my younger 20s, when I started to move away from the things that had kept me, I was unhappy and I lost myself. Like I lost me. And I didn't like that. I also recognized like earlier relationships that I had in my younger 20s, I would like try to fit what I thought that my partner wanted and not maintain who I was in that. So anywho, hindsight's 2020. So reflecting in all of that, I'm like, golly, Lane, you completely lost you. So let's just do a hard reset on your life. What have been the things that you have just been doing since birth? Movement was one of those things. Speaking was one of those things. Empowering people, leading and guiding. I've always been a version of this person. It's just a more evolved person. And so for me, that kind of spoke to my purpose, because these were the things that I truly feel like I was born with. And I've just always been this way, versus trying to create a version of me that's not really me. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah. And so, when I think about walking in one's purpose and being grounded in that, for me, it was a reflection of how do I tap into the things that have always been in a way that is really intentional and purposeful? And then how do I give my gifts away? Or how do I support somebody else with the gifts that have been given to me? And as cliche as it sounds like, oh, it was just a feeling. For me, I think once things started to click and I started to be grounded in, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I've always been doing. I felt that. I felt more grounded. I felt more centered in myself. And things just started to align themselves in a way that was vastly different from me trying to just force shit into place. Like truly spent the first half of my 20s trying to shove round pegs in square holes. And it took me years to be like, well, why doesn't this fit? And like, because it wasn't supposed to. It was not supposed to fit that way. So I just had to relax and recenter and let go of timelines and just kind of turn inward and just kind of sit with it and think and really reflect on what have you always done? Who are you? And then I just went from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. Completely relate to that. I think it's important if someone's not sure, if someone's feeling, unfulfilled and they not happy in their job, they're not happy in life, and there's a few things going on. If you, like you said, if you stop and actually look back and look in retrospect and see what were the things, what's the common denominator in all the things I've done that's brought me joy or that I was good at. And it's interesting because that isn't something I ever thought about until I had to create, my personal brand for my business. And I had the brand consultant, Sarah Ashman, to help me do that. And she basically, it was like a deep dive. It was like a psychotherapy session, a very painful one. I went to go really deep. And basically the common denominators were basically always love comedy, always love laughing, always enjoy making other people laugh, and being irreverent and empowering others. And so once I got that, it didn't really matter what shape it was going to take. So whether it's in my health and skincare consultancy or whether it's in the podcast. And I think it sounds like that's what you're saying about, when I was asking you about if you felt any pressure with, staying at a certain size, given your business and the name Curve Lane, the minute you have that extra layer or that deeper layer of actually why you're doing stuff, makes it all okay, because it doesn't matter. You're always going to find that way. It may not always be easy, but I guess the reason why I'm saying this is that if anyone's listening and they're not sure, if you can look back and see, and sometimes you just need someone else to help you, like going to someone to you, for example, Lane, and say, okay, someone who can actually help, have a proper perspective. But once you know that, you get to really understand the things that really bring you joy and the things that you can really be good at and are helping others, because it really is about, giving that all away. It's not about keeping it like your precious and going to your grave with it. And that's the saddest thing, is if we don't actually utilize what it is that we're meant to be doing. So yeah, and I think that's absolutely great advice. Really, really great advice. Do you sometimes still feel scared to push yourself? Are there any things that you're scared of doing sometimes? Do you ever?
Yeah, all the time. I think that is part of the human experience, is fear, right?
Yeah.
The fear of, well, what if I do this and I fail? Or what if I do this and I make a complete ass of myself? Or, something happens, or whatever the case may be. I definitely still get those feelings a lot. Like, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't. But where I had to shift was challenging myself, like, okay, if you fail, it's experience. Or what if you did it and you didn't fail? Or what if you took this leap and this happened? Like, what if? Like, I think one of my scariest moment of 2019 to date. So I had the opportunity to be in Lizzo's Tempo video, Lizzie featuring Missy Elliott.
No, you're kidding. What?
No, not at all. I'm one of the dancers in that video. Super cool experience.
Wait, which video? Oh yes,
Tempo?
no, I saw that on Instagram. I saw the guy who was commenting on it, and you said, "Yeah, you commented back." Is that the one that's on your Instagram?
Yes,
Oh
athletic
my
big
God.
girl. #athletic big girl. So that's me.
Can you say what song is? I completely interrupted you, and I want people to know what's the song.
So the song is Tempo by Lizzo featuring Missy Elliott. So you can go find video, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I am the dancer in the red leotard.
Yeah.
And so the whole process was scary. So I remember there being a casting call of sorts, kind of on the front end, like tag your favorite curvy dancer. And, so I started getting all these kind of random tags, and I was like, what's going on? And so when I finally, read it and kind of got grounded, and I was like, oh God, like I want to put myself out there, but all the what ifs started to flood my head. What if I'm not talented enough? What if I'm too big? What if I'm too old? All of these different things. And I had to push past it. And it has been one of the best experiences ever. And it's definitely opened up just some different types of doors. And in reflecting on that, immediately following that, I'm like, you almost did not go, and I would have been mad at myself, because I had planned a weekend. I was supposed to be in Florida that weekend. And so the person that I made plans with, and I was like, I think that this may happen, but I also don't know, but I want to try. And that person was super supportive at the time and was like, take that opportunity. There'll be other moments. And so I canceled an entire trip on a whim that something might work out in my favor. And it did, but I had to fight past that. And so that's just an example of probably the biggest time that I was scared this year. I get those feelings a lot. I think that we all have self-doubts. And I think the difference between, folks who kind of get stuck and folks who maybe progress are the people who are going to push through the fear. Yeah, we're scared and we all have the what ifs, but I think that there is a lot of success and beauty on the other side of fear. And if you can just press into that and push past that, you would be amazed at the opportunities that are waiting there for you.
Oh, yeah, and I'm glad you did. I mean, that's fantastic. There's actually, you also got another video where it's just you and there's a pole there and you also dance to that song. Like it's another video, I think it's the tempo one as well.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So what does your day job think of this? How does that work?
So my day job, I don't think they know the full nuances of everything that I do in terms of the pole piece, to be 100% transparent. But I've always been blessed to have really awesome, beautiful, like badass female bosses. And so they know that movement is a big portion of what I do. And so it's built into my schedule. And I've been very fortunate with that, where, you know, Thursday nights is for me. And I'm very clear about, hey, this is how I stay grounded. This is what this looks like. This is what my schedule kind of looks like on the weekends if I need to teach a class or whatever the case may be. And they always tell me to go do my thing. So I've been really fortunate in that capacity to be able to have the space to grow my own thing. And so
how, because I have a day job too. And so I guess I totally understand, like there's a level of transparency, but there's also the not needing to always say everything. So I just wonder if that's, like, how would you, is it because, are you worried with what they're going to think of the pole dancing? Or is it because they don't need to know how invested you are in your own thing because they may be worried of you leaving? Like, do you know what the reason is?
I don't think it's the worried about leaving part, or even worried about like what they may think. Cause I'm in Atlanta, you know?
Yeah.
So all of the 300 staff under me, I have rappers and producers and photographers, you know, so everybody's kind of got their side thing, which is very beautiful. And where I am is something that we encourage. Like that might be your side, your self-care or your hustle or what you're passionate about and things like that. And being within the mental health field, like the moment that you lose the things that you were passionate about, it's easy to go to a not great place. And so we want to make sure that people are balanced with everything that they have to do here, you know, within their normal working hours, but also balancing the things that keep them balanced is very important when working with children who can't necessarily help themselves with some of the things that are happening. Not worried that they think that I'm going anywhere. I've literally been here for 12 years, so I'm here. But I think for me, it's more about just trying to keep the persona of I'm this person here and then I'm this person outside of here. And although the two pieces kind of blend in my own world in terms of the mental health and the wellness and those different pieces, I try not to cross those lanes, not to be funny at all, but I try not to cross those paths at all.
Yeah, pun intended.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. I think there's a part of like, you sometimes have to protect yourself or have some sort of, we all need a layer of protection so that we can actually be free and open in what we do. So, you know, it's almost a little bit like, the analogy is going to be sex, but it's almost like if you're with someone that you know respects you and loves you, then you can totally get your freak on, you know, but no one else needs to know. And it's that almost is that thing, like, sometimes I feel like I'm really proud of the things that I do and I love what I do, but also sometimes in my day job, I don't want to say everything because I feel then I would have to start worrying maybe how they may react or what they may be thinking. And I don't want to have that in the equation, because for me to be free in expressing myself, I have to have a sense of intimacy about it. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Because it's got to express ourselves and to be true to ourselves is as much as it can be in the public arena, you know, or on social media, or whatever, it's very an intimate thing. It's quite, you know, these are leaps that people do every day. And sometimes we have to have that layer of, I need to be able to make sure I close some doors, you know, not everybody needs to know everything. And so, I can hear that. I just wanted to check if it was, there was something that, not just me. So let's say if someone's listening on and they're dying to find what lifts them up, or they're really dying to just, they don't feel fulfilled. They know something's got to change, whether it's how they feel physically, how they feel in their mind, in their work. What would you say to someone like that? Not obviously not giving out all your secrets. I want people to, to find you and contact you. But like, what would you say a good place to start with? If there was one thing they could do today for them to help sort of like just reset and find peace, where would you say they could start?
Movement for me in any capacity, I feel, is always a good place to start. So that could be a yoga class. That could be going to the gym. That could be just trying something new to see what feels good, to you. And movement may not be your thing at all. You might go do improv, or you might, start painting, or you might start doing different things, pick up an instrument, but finding what that is. And like I said, I can best go off of my own experiences. When I started to get back to the things that I love, like some of those things were just innate and felt very organic in my body, very organic in my skin, as if I had done this in another life. And to me, that kind of clicked and that resonated with me. I feel like everybody has gifts that they have. It's just a matter of tapping into what your gift is.
Yeah, because it may not be movement. And if it is, even just going out for a run, or painting, drawing, all sorts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, I'll continue to phrase things as movement, because my type of movement is dance, right?
Yeah.
But there are lots of different types of movement. And so for me, it's an important distinction kind of between the two, because I don't want to limit others' experiences or even the things that I provide through my brand to just dancing-based movement.
Yeah. And before we round up, I have another question. I wanted to ask you, what is feminine? Sorry, let me see if I can say the word in English. What is femininity to you?
To me, it is strength and grace. And I use those exact same words to describe pole. That's my experience. I am definitely a feminine creature, but I am also extremely strong and a badass. My stage name, Lane Wonder, comes from my middle name, but I also love Wonder Woman. So I'm a nerd for real in real life, and I love Marvel comics.
Mm-hmm.
The only DC character that I am obsessed with is Wonder Woman. And not to get off on a tangent, but like the film itself was so empowering, and the actresses were composed of definitely people who are actors, but also ladies who do CrossFit, ladies who ride horses for real, ladies who do archery, and like these really strong women. And so anywho, for me, when I think about being feminine, it is kind of creating and holding that space to, yes, be graceful and soft and kind, and these things that are kind of like cliche feminine type things, but also creating the space to be strong and to be firm and to be, just gung-ho about whatever the case may be, and the blend between the two. And so my confidence for myself, like, I'm a curvy lady and I own that. I own every single curve that I have, but I also love being strong. Like, yeah, bro, I can squat as much as you can, and I love that. So it's the blend between the two. Like, I can easily pull up a 350-pound tire, and then I go and I check my nails, so it's the blend of both of those pieces to me. And also not being in a box of like, oh, I have to be this way, or I have to like decrease the fact that I'm stupid strong because that's not the most feminine thing, or that's not yet. I don't give a shit about any of that. Like, this is what it looks like on me, and just creating that space for myself and creating that space for others.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. No, and it is actually a great feeling. I mean, I lift weights, and there's nothing better than to go and do like a deadlift or a sumo deadlift or all kinds of stuff. And you're like, and there are many women in the gym I mean, lots of women do it, especially now, with CrossFit and stuff. I don't do CrossFit, but, a lot of more women are lifting weights, and not always have, some curves, not always have I don't want to be just muscle showing. That's just a personal choice for me. And also because it'd be too much hard work going against my body type. But it is such a strong feeling. And actually feeling strong makes me feel more feminine because I leave the gym and I have a lighter step in my, what's the word? I just walk more lightly. I just feel lighter. I feel good. And yeah, it actually, for me, doing physical activity helps me just feel happier. But also I feel it enables me to be more feminine when I'm happier as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's all those endorphins that are released in the brain anytime you move,
Yes.
And for me, I try to do my workouts, even if I'm training pole. Shout out to Ecstasies. She is my coach at Vertical Joe's. So if I'm training with her, our sessions are in the morning time because I am clear that way. And I always walk away feeling really good, really grounded, and really strong. I think, just like you said, for me, that is part of what makes me feminine is the fact that I am curvy and I'm soft in places, but I'm very strong and I'm solid as well. And that transcends from the physical piece to the emotional to, the mental to everything. That's who I am, graceful and I am strong. And there's space for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. So what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18-year-old self to fucking relax. I remember I got a really bad panic attack right before I graduated high school because at that time, and I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to go to college. Clearly that means I have to have everything figured out, right? So I was like, what am I going to school for? What am I going to do with that degree? And things like that. And obviously as time progressed, I'm like, nobody's got it figured out. Nobody has it figured out. But I didn't know that, and so from a young age, I started creating these unrealistic timelines for myself. Like by 18, I need to do this. And by 22 and by 25 and bleh, it was just ridiculous. And so that's what I would tell her is just to calm it all the way down. Things will unfold and evolve as they are supposed to. Just do your best and relax.
Yeah. No, that's, Can I ask you how old you are?
Of course. I am 33.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm 40. Just so yeah. No, that's because especially when we turn 30, I remember there's a lot of timelines that we're supposed to be hitting as women. I think it's changing now. Things are changing, which is
yeah.
good.
I get tickled at myself. I have hit none of the timelines that I had set for myself. Younger 20s. And looking back, and I'm like, how silly were you to think that these things were just going to shake out this way,
Yeah. We have no idea when we're 18.
No, not at all. And I think too, just kind of the coming to age that everybody goes through with figuring out what your life looks like for you and not kind of what's been prepackaged based on what your experiences have been up until that point. And so, from 18 to 21 or 20 for me, it was kind of shifting away from those ought tos and those you're supposed to be doing this to what do I want to do? What does Lane want? And not what does everybody else want me to want or want me to do? And that took a shift.
I have to say though, I'm really impressed that you're 33 and that you've done a lot with your life and you've achieved a lot in terms of also just as who you are as a person, so yeah, you are a wise 33 years old,
I have lived a lot of life. I've lived a lot of life. And I try to learn from others, be it their mistakes or their successes and things like that. I try to learn where I can. I really value mentorship. And so I love connecting with all types of people, but I love connecting with women who may be 8 to 11 years my senior and be like, how did you get to where you are? What did you do? What did you do in your 30s? Because I think that there's a lot of value to that.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes women who are in my age bracket, because I guess I'm considered like an elder millennial, I think sometimes people miss that and they get stuck in like, well, I have all the answers. No, the fuck you don't. Like, seek guidance, ask questions, you know, let's support one another. So that's been really helpful for me, has been the mentors that I have.
That's definitely, I mean, I've always loved to have people who are, I mean, both actually younger and older. And I find actually the older I get, the harder it is to find people who are older than me, you know, like I get asked to attract people who are younger than me. And it's really important to have someone who's been there, done that, in an inspiring way. They can, or they're happy to give back in terms of advice or mentorship. It's definitely, you know, it's always important to have some sort of almost like a guide, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the final question I'd like to ask you is, what stuff do you not put up with anymore?
I don't put up with excuses and lies. And that can be the lies and excuses that I tell to myself.
Yes.
Or the lies and the excuses that may come from, you know, an outside party. So I'll speak first to like the outside piece. I think growing up, sometimes I would intuitively know what was happening. And this could be like relationship, this could be education, this could be work, or whatever the case may be. But I didn't trust what my instincts were. I did not tap into that. And I was just like, okay, la, 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 and went along with it. And then things kind of like imploded or they blew up in my face in a really like terrible way. Yeah. And so I just had to learn from that. But I didn't shift those patterns. Like the same types of things continued to happen. And although it was easy for me to kind of point the finger and be like, oh, you know, it was this person or whatever the case may be, I allowed that. I made that pattern okay. I reinforced that pattern of behavior with whoever the other person may have been. And because I kind of played into that, although it's not, you know, completely on me, I created the space to say, it's okay for you to make excuses. It's okay for you to lie. And so that's something that I had to kind of shift and learn for myself. And then for me with making excuses or lying to myself, I think that was the biggest challenge, and just things that I don't allow for myself anymore. What's been really helpful for me this year in just making progress is I invested in a passion planner, which I encourage everybody to go look them up. These ladies have just made a phenomenal, it's really just like kind of like a day planner, but with lots of space to like doodle and kind of map out your goals and what your life change would be and passion roadmaps and all these different things. And so although it's just a tool, that tool definitely helped me to kind of get rid of some of the roadblocks that I kept putting in my own path. Because I was a pro at being like, oh, I can't do this because of blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's an excuse. Like, if you were to get rid of that excuse and do something different, where might you be? You know? So those are the things that I don't allow anymore.
What's the tool are you using, the planner?
It's called a passion planner.
Okay. Yeah, it is good to get prompted and to visualize what it is that's going on and where you want to go. I always have to write down, you know, where I'm going, what I need to do. Otherwise, I'll just stay in front of Netflix and get nothing done. You know, it's important to have. Yeah. You've got to. It's easy to say I don't have time or I can't do it and you lose track of what your purpose is all of a sudden or so.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to make time for the things that are important to you and kind of get rid of those excuses. One of the biggest things, so I make a lot of my own content. This time last year, I remember being like at the brink of tears because I kept wanting to, you know, collaborate with different videographers in the city and things like that. And I always have all these different ideas about stuff that I want to do. My brain works like a creative director. That's a gift that I have.
Yeah.
But I did not have the resources myself. And then I was having a hard time, not networking with people, but just trying to find the cost to like, it's like if I just wanted to do a 60-second bump, like it was going to be like $300. I was like, I don't have that kind of money to produce content as frequently as I would like to. And so the excuse that I had to eliminate was, okay, if this is not going to work for you, then you're going to have to figure out how to do it yourself. Yes. You got the ideas, figure it out. And so, I watched a lot of tutorials and I bought the tools and I just kind of like taught myself. My brother's also been really helpful for that because he's a jack of all trades. And so that's been something that I'm reflecting on, like looking at the very first kind of like video content that I made up until the most recent one, to the point where people are now reaching out like, hey, can I work with you? And I'm like, Jen, that's crazy because you were sitting here in tears, butthurt, because you could not figure out, like, oh, well, I can't afford this. Okay, let's remove the excuse. What can you do? What is within your control? What are the tools that you need? And how do you get there?
It was the things like the technical stuff, like filming it and editing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because those are very expensive to outsource. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had to learn as well myself, and I'm still learning, and I'm still not there, but it's definitely, learning to do it yourself first is huge, because also, once you actually can afford to outsource, and because you're just so busy, you don't have the time, then you'll be able to recognize someone who's good at what they do, and you won't feel bad giving that money away.
Correct.
Yeah. It's because you said about the lies and stuff. We always know, though, don't we? We always know. And it's about trusting ourselves. If something's not right, we always know inside of ourselves. And then when things implode, you're like, oh, I knew it.
Absolutely. Like, I will never doubt myself in that manner again. Like, trust your intuition.
Definitely.
That third eye is not going to lie to you.
Look, this has been absolutely wonderful, Lane. Before we wrap up, please tell us where we can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me so much. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube at Curve Lane. You can also go to my website, which is curvelane.com, and all contact information to be able to get a hold of me or to book me or to plan a workshop is all there on the website.
Perfect. And can people also contact you long distance? Do you do like Skype sessions or anything like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, great. So look, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. I'll keep an eye out.
I appreciate that, Angie. Thank you.
And that's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Look, please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes or follow on Spotify. Please show us some love. That's how you can support this show. And drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angies.com. That's angie-s.com. Or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is Tool for Dish It Podcast, and the other one is Health Lifestylist. See you next week. And until then,
using health inappropriately.